Hi, I'm Becky Davis with City TV, and welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. A red flag alert is a program used by fire agencies to warn residents when weather conditions present the potential for large wildfires. In our first segment, we take a look at how red flag alerts are made and what to do when they are. Red flag warning. For those who live in areas prone to wildfire, these three words used together can cause unease, if not anxiety. But a red flag warning isn't like a smoke alarm going off. It's more like a road sign that warns you of hazards when certain conditions exist.
It doesn't mean to panic. Just like any of these other warning systems, it means to be ready. It's not a panic. We don't want people calling 911. We want you to be ready.
What a red flag warning does mean is that critical fire weather conditions are either occurring now or will shortly. Those conditions include three main criteria: relative humidity, temperature, and wind.
Currently, the red flag is 15% relative humidity with the wind speed up to 25 to 35 miles an hour. There's another criteria of relative humidity at 10%. Winds blowing 15 to 25, and it's sustained through 6 hours.
Red flag warnings aren't determined by any one agency or entity, but rather are the result of a collaborative discussion between the National Weather Service, federal and state fire agencies, and local fire departments.
It isn't something we do casually. It isn't something we do without a lot of forethought, because we're going to be asking people to be changing some behaviors. We're going to be restricting some areas.
We all work together and collectively are collecting data, weather data, for example, fuels data, that all kind of goes into this system.
Analysis of weather and vegetation conditions is so important to the system that two programs were created to collect and analyze the data and then disseminate the results: the National Weather Service Fire Weather Forecasters and the aptly named Predictive Services.
Predictive Services is an office down in South Ops that we use on a regular basis. They do a number of modeling things versus weather, fuels and dryness, atmospheric stuff, and basically they're setting it up to tell us what kind of conditions we can expect so that we can staff properly.
That data is unique to particular areas, so red flag warnings can be made for specific zones. The county is divided into 5 zones, with Santa Barbara being in the South Coast Zone.
National Weather Service has defined these zones. They have all varying climatic conditions within these zones. When we go into a red flag, we might be in a red flag warning in Santa Barbara County front country, but we would not be in a red flag for the North County, for example.
Once the decision to initiate a red flag warning is made, a succession of actions are taken, starting with the placement of red flags at all fire stations.
For Santa Barbara City, we actually set out signs at 5 key locations within the city that's saying we're in a red flag warning. We also look at upstaffing. Other agencies do this also. We look at upstaffing. We essentially do red flag patrols. We have 2 of our patrol trucks that we would potentially staff and have them go out, check weather, check the weather conditions, make sure people aren't doing things that they shouldn't be doing that have the potential to start a fire.
Those things include any actions that have the potential to start a fire, such as mowing, weed whipping, using mechanical equipment, or welding. In addition to informing the public via all media outlets, Facebook and Twitter, homeowners associations in the affected areas are also notified.
They have phone trees where they'll actually, call people within their neighborhood and say, we're in a red flag, just giving you kind of a heads up. So there's an awareness of the situation that's going on around you.
And since access is critical in the event of a fire, parking along roads in the high fire areas is also monitored during a red flag warning. In Mission Canyon, parking restrictions are initiated during a red flag warning.
And then we start the process of a 24-hour, we're going to tow people if they're in the red flag streets that we have. And we work closely with the agencies such as the Sheriff's Department, CHP, to potentially tow your vehicle if you're in that area after 24 hours.
With such a long history of wildfires, fire officials point out it's a matter of when, not if, the next one will strike. In light of that, they have compiled an easy-to-understand resource to help citizens prepare themselves.
Well, one of the things that we've worked on in the Southern California is the Ready, Set, Go program, and basically be prepared as a homeowner, listen to the radio, listen to all the media that's going out, and that's the ready part. Get set, get everything in your car, things that you need, medication, clothes, anything of importance, records, and then when we say it's time to go and evacuate, just leave your area.
Fire officials stress the red flag warning is evolving and that they are constantly striving to improve it.
Just like we learn things every time that we go through a fire together. And so as we learn things, hopefully our ability to communicate what we're learning to the public gets better, and our ability to work with each other gets better each time.
So the next time you see a red flag warning, know that a lot of time, technology, and cooperative effort went into it, and you should take it seriously. Wildfires are inevitable in our area, so too should be our preparedness to safely respond to them. To find out more about red flag alerts and how to prepare yourself for wildland fires, visit santabarbaraca.gov/wildland. When this concrete channel was built by Caltrans in 1961, it was great for the flood control of Mission Creek, but terrible for the indigenous steelhead trout. Up next, City TV's Chris Bell reveals why this channel is so bad for the steelhead and the innovative solution the Creeks Division is pursuing to restore this remarkable fish to the creek.
Bisecting the city like concrete scars, the two flood control channels on Mission Creek known as the Caltrans channels stand as testament to the philosophy of function over form. The 0.3-mile section between Los Olivos and Pedregosa streets and the 0.8-mile section between Arriaga and Canon Perdido were constructed in 1934 and 1961 respectively by the California Department of Transportation to improve flood control along Highway 101.
And in order to do that, they had to widen that road area, and Mission Creek actually went on to the west side. It went all the way under what is now the freeway, and instead of building two bridges, kind of assuming that, they just straightened the creek and put it in concrete. It solved any flood control problems, and then it prevented them from having to build bridges for the freeway to go over Mission Creek.
The concrete channels have performed as designed, but at a cost.
From a habitat standpoint, as you can tell, there's not a lot of trees in this channel. There's a lot of sunlight. If water does flow over it, there's no little pools or anything for the frogs or any other fish or anything else to live. And because it's so sunny, the water flows over in a very thin sheet over this concrete, and it heats up. And when you heat up water, that's not good for any aquatic organisms.
No creature has been more impacted by the construction of the Caltrans channels than the Southern California steelhead. The southern steelhead is a remarkable fish that begins its life in freshwater and migrates to the ocean where it spends most of its adult life. It needs to return to freshwater to spawn, and this is where the concrete channels become a problem.
And the reason is when the water flows at low flow rates, it flows at a thin sheet and it's too shallow for the fish to swim up. And when it goes at a high rate, the fish cannot swim against that fast water for that long. It's a mile channel of concrete, and they need resting areas. They can burst at short speeds quickly, but not for a whole mile. So it was impossible for fish to get up this channel.
Human-made barriers like concrete channels, dams, and culverts have impacted the steelhead so adversely, it's estimated that the population is less than 1% of historical levels. As a result, the National Marine Fisheries Service listed the southern steelhead as an endangered species in 1997.
And so they wrote a big management plan, and in the management plan, Mission Creek was identified as one of their priority creeks, basically, for restoration of trying to get steelhead back, because there's an existing population of coastal rainbow trout or steelhead. They're the same thing, and there's some good habitat upstream, and so they figured, well, this is a good stream to try to restore steelhead.
With the fate of an endangered species in the mix and restoration as one of its goals, The Creeks Division began the daunting task of trying to solve the challenge of the channel starting in 2006. One of the first ideas to surface was simply removing the concrete completely and restoring the creek. Only that turned out to be not so simple.
When they looked at the cost, it proved extremely expensive because, as you can see, it's a straight channel, and so you'd have to kind of put some meander in it. That means you'd have to buy some property next door. That means, you know, the price tag was anywhere from $50 to $75 million. And so that was pretty much a no-go from the start.
Adding to the difficulty is the requirement that, whatever they did, it could not negatively affect flood control. So with limited funds and lots of constraints, Creek's staff began to focus on ways to simply allow steelhead up the channel.
So a lot of ideas were explored. We went and did some physical modeling, and this is what we came up with. Just a fish passage channel cut into the bed of the existing concrete with small cutouts on the side. We call them pockets that act as resting areas, or kind of like pools in a natural stream, so that the fish have a place to rest on their way upstream. We're able to slow the water down some, increase the depth, the two things that this channel really prohibit.
The cutting-edge design is gaining the attention of other municipalities with similar barriers.
We were kind of the first ones to do it. That's why we did so much preliminary modeling to try to find out, will it work or not? And there are other designers using it. Actually, on San Jose Creek in Goleta right now, they're doing a big flood control project, and they're doing a very similar design. So hopefully, by this work, and this is the hope of some of the granting agencies like the Department of Fish and Wildlife, they want to be able to use this in other locations in California to get steelhead upstream.
The majority of the funding for the $2.8 million project came from outside sources.
We have funding from three main sources: the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service, we have it from Wildlife Conservation Board, and we've got funding from the State Coastal Conservancy.
Southern California's steelhead are native to streams and rivers along the coast from Santa Maria to the Mexican border, and populations historically existed in all of the larger watersheds within Santa Barbara County. With the new Fish Passage project, the Creeks Division aims to return the steelhead to Mission Creek, while at the same time restore a piece of Santa Barbara's heritage.
There is a chance that we could lose all of the fish upstream. If that were to happen, no steelhead came back up, we would never have fish on this creek again. So it's really important to maintain that run just to keep the population around of the resident fish, because if you do have situations like drought and fire that wipe out the population, the only way for them to get repopulated is through the steelhead to swim back upstream.
The Fish Passage project is due to be completed by the end of October. To learn more about it or any other Creeks project, visit sbcreeks.com. This spring, the network of Santa Barbara County water providers held their first annual contest to honor people in their communities with water-wise landscapes. In our next story, we visit a variety of beautiful gardens competing for the grand prize and find out who won. From Santa Maria to Carpinteria, residents across Santa Barbara County entered their sustainable gardens into this year's first annual Water-Wise Garden Competition.
So the Water-Wise Garden Contest was started because we wanted to celebrate people in our community who have attractive and water-efficient gardens. We all want to encourage low water using landscapes, and there's quite a few people that have stellar properties, and we really want to recognize them and hold them up as an example of a nice water-wise front garden.
Judges, made up of representatives from the participating water providers, visited the qualifying gardens and selected a winner from each water provider to compete in the county-wide competition.
Since the contest was county-wide, each water provider had their own judges. So it was water provider staff that would go to each site visit and talk to the owner about the garden, how it was installed, if they maintained it themselves, who was in charge of watering, and then they would look at the plant type and also the watering system to make sure that it was efficient.
Each garden was judged according to 4 main categories: overall appearance, water-wise plant selection, design, and efficient methods of irrigation.
The judges basically chose the winning properties based on a balance of aesthetics and beauty and water efficiency. They were all beautiful gardens, but where it really narrowed it down was if it was being watered seasonally. So in the summer it was getting more water, but in the winter they really scaled it down. Or if they had any bonus features like rainwater capturing, rainwater catchment, or native plants, that also contributed to their score.
After water provider winners were selected, staff from each participating water provider teamed up to select the county winner.
So Christine Nolte was the winner for the City of Santa Barbara, and then she also went on to win the county-wide award. And her garden, it used to be a lawn, and she replaced it herself and put in water-wise plants, many of which were native, and she had a focus of a butterfly garden. She really wanted to attract butterflies and native pollinators, so she had milkweed for the monarchs. She also had a lot of flowering plants that would attract native pollinators. And then she put in her own rainwater system where the roof runoff would go into the gutter and it would go into the ground to water the plants, and that would reduce how much potable water she would need for irrigation.
The inspiration to change my landscape came from just wanting something that looked nice and had some curb appeal. And then I got involved in gardening classes and reading books and looking at pictures and just decided to go for it.
In order to make her front yard more attractive and low water using, Christine utilized the city's Smart Landscape Rebate Program.
We took out the lawn, which was the majority of the front yard. There were large junipers that we also took out. There was no irrigation at all. It was all hose irrigation. And took all that out, recontoured the property, and then started planting.
Water-wise landscaping is a really great benefit to saving money on your water bill. They're usually lower maintenance than a lawn because you don't have to mow them, and they provide a lot of beauty to your front yard. So we encourage a lot of people, if they want to change their landscaping and they're looking for something new, the city offers a rebate program to replace high water using plants such as turf or tropical plants with low water using plants and irrigation that's more efficient.
Christine was competing against 5 other winning water-wise gardens across the county, including Montecito, Carpinteria, Goleta, Santa Maria, and Lompoc, and the judges selected hers as the county-wide winner for its beautiful and water-wise design.
I think I'm most proud of the design, the way it turned out for form and function, and of course being water-wise, but also attracting the local habitat.
Although this was the first water-wise garden contest, the family of county water providers planned to make it an annual event.
All the water providers countywide enjoyed it, and we want to keep offering it next year. There may be some changes. We're still discussing how we might want to tweak it, but it will be next spring when we will put the word out to encourage people to apply, probably online again, and then we will start judging again and announce those winners in July.
So for those of you needing a reason to renovate your landscape, do what Christine Nolte did. Take advantage of the City of Santa Barbara's Smart Landscape Rebate and transform your garden into next year's water-wise winner. There are a variety of resources online that can help make your garden more sustainable. Just visit santabarbaraca.gov/waterwise. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
Oh, periscope. Can't see anything. Sir, the crew is concerned about the amount of disposable bags we have on board. I will not hear of such things. Flood torpedo tubes. Flood torpedo tubes. Fire torpedo. Fire torpedo!
Sir, it's a misfire. Disposable bags are jamming the tube.
Captain, we've got to get rid of these bags and start using canvas reusables! Mister, I will not hear of this talk of treason. All ahead full, right full rudder. All ahead full, right full rudder! Engineering, what's going on down there?
Sir, we've been sabotaged by disposable bags!
minutes away. Hours of fun. Explore new worlds. Grab a bite. Have a blast. Catch the fun. Stearns Wharf. Playing near you.
Your city negotiated a great new contract with your garbage hauler, Marburg. This means enhanced collection services. As of July 1st, residential customers will receive 2 bulky item pickups per year, household battery and cell phone pickup, unlimited large appliance pickup, mail-in medical sharps, additional green waste at no extra charge, and Christmas tree and holiday trash pickup. For more information, call 564-5631 or 963-1852.
This municipal course is exceptional.
It's just in better shape than it's ever been before.
This is the place to be if you really want to learn how to play golf.
You get a great course for the price.
Definitely affordable.
Great values on merchandise in the pro shop.
It's a nice, friendly atmosphere. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Now that warmer weather is here, we check our sprinklers to make sure they're working right and water-wise. Turn on your sprinklers during the day to see how they're working.
Make sure there's no water running onto your driveway or sidewalk. Redirect spray heads to keep the water in your landscaping.
Look for broken sprinklers and make repairs as needed.
Save water and money. Learn how at waterwisesb.org. Let's save together.
For the past 2 decades, the Chromatic Gate has been a centerpiece for public art in Santa Barbara, and it just received a much-needed paint job. Stay tuned as Inside Santa Barbara's Mark Soleil takes us to the rededication ceremony, where we learn some interesting tidbits about this iconic work of art.
Situated between the Pacific Ocean on one side and Santa Barbara's scenic view of the mountains on the other, it's hard to overlook the rainbow arches of the Chromatic Gate as you ride down Cabrillo Boulevard. After a long-awaited restoration process, this previously dilapidated sculpture is now once again a major attraction for art lovers and community members alike. A ceremony to commemorate the gate's transformation was recently held.
It's really a gorgeous day, not just the weather today, but just the community coming together for something that really is a conversation piece throughout the community, one way or another. And that's the beauty of public art. It gives a sense of place, a sense of community. It brings together conversations, and it brings together people who normally would not necessarily know each other to talk about something beyond the day-to-day and the mundane, and to talk about something as exciting and wonderful as public art.
The Chromatic Gate has come a long way in a short amount of time. Just a couple years ago, the arch was a faded, rusted version of its former self, with no money for maintenance. Then the Santa Barbara Arts Commission, in collaboration with the Restore Our Rainbow Committee, the Santa Barbara Arts Fund, and private donors like David Jacoby, raised money to restore the sculpture.
This would not have been possible without some significant visionaries early on in the process. What we ended up here with was a project that was made possible not just with the large donations, but with individuals and youth and kids and people writing $25 checks and putting whatever they can because they wanted to see this accomplished. And to me, that's the big message today, that this is a community effort.
The restoration process faced several challenges, including unfavorable weather and numerous obstacles for the workers.
Rain, fog, wind, cold, excessive heat all means no painting today. In addition, completing all sanding, repair, and painting while 20 feet up in the air at times, wearing respirator masks, working on your knees, and upside down like Michelangelo. So I say to all those anonymous people, no, you and your can of paint and stepladder would not have done this job.
Along with providing funding for current restoration, the future of the gate is also secured with the establishment of a maintenance fund.
I want to thank Ginny and Rita and the fundraising community that raised the money to not only restore this art piece, this public art piece, but to also build funds that will take it into the future.
The colorful arch was designed by renowned artist Herbert Bayer. Bayer's inspiration came from his travels to Morocco, but the chromatic gate was not originally designed for Santa Barbara.
He designed this one as a marker for corporate headquarters for ARCO in Pennsylvania. It was supposed to be one of two, and they weren't actually built from what I understand, but this one is such a lucky sculpture, the luckiest rainbow of all time, that instead of sitting at ARCO headquarters in Pennsylvania, it gets to be here.
The newly restored chromatic gate also pays tribute to Paul Mills, long-serving director at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, who guided the original installation in 1991.
Just as a person, Paul Mills would be quite emotional and very moved by what you've done. He'd just simply be so grateful, so thankful, so relieved, and so touched that you cared, and that you could save the chromatic gate when he couldn't. It's moments like today that meant so much to my dad and my mom, moments when the boldness and vibrancy, the bravery and intelligence of contemporary art could bring very different people together and challenge them, please them, make them think and discuss and feel.
With the vibrancy of the sculpture restored, the community can once again embrace the chromatic gate as a symbol of Santa Barbara's art and creativity.
This art piece will now enter into a whole new level of public discussion of public art. And it does today reflect what Santa Barbara values.
This work may have been done in the last decade, but it comes from a time when people believed that art could make the world new again.
Make sure to catch the newly restored chromatic gate located on Cabrillo Boulevard across from the Doubletree Hotel. Well, it may be fall, but it's time to do a little spring cleaning. Looking Good Santa Barbara hosts its 10th annual citywide neighborhood cleanup. In our next story, City TV's Jeff Goodvin tells us about this event that brings the whole community together.
It's a project of sweeping scope. Nearly every neighborhood in the city will be affected. Sponsored by Looking Good Santa Barbara, a citywide cleanup will take place on October 12th from 9 a.m. to noon. Following a free pancake breakfast sponsored by the Kiwanis, cleanup volunteers will spread out across the city, armed with brooms, gloves, and trash bags.
They'll go out and comb the neighborhood. They'll do anything from graffiti cleanup, litter cleanup, creek cleanup, you name it. We also have some tree plantings, and we have a number of special projects we're doing in the neighborhoods as well.
Around 500 volunteers are expected to participate in the cleanup this year. Organizers say neighborhood involvement is crucial.
And we want people to own their neighborhoods and be a part of the solution.
Past cleanup volunteers have included youth groups, families, church groups, and local neighbors. Some didn't know about the cleanup, but joined in once they did. Even though the cleanup is only 3 hours, the impact on the community lasts much longer.
And in that small time, believe it or not, we're able to do a lot of work that's a huge transformation for this city.
The Milpas Community Association will help to enlist East Side businesses to support the cleanup, and businesses located on San Andres will aid the cleanup on the west side. Volunteers will receive a job ticket and the supplies needed to do the task assigned. Jobs will range from minor graffiti abatement to trash pickup.
Not only to pick up litter, but to clean up green waste and things of that nature in the city, and also they'll be sorting all of that waste. So they'll sort trash and recycling, so we're also being clean and green at the same time.
As part of the effort, Looking Good Santa Barbara is also coordinating with the Creeks Division to clean up Santa Barbara's creeks and estuaries.
So we'll be out cleaning the local creeks in this area, in both the work areas. They'll go down into the creeks. A lot of times they'll wear wet boots and go down there and do some really heavy lifting and some dirty work sometimes, but it's all fun, and in the end, it's all for a great cause.
Satisfaction of doing a worthy job and the cohesiveness of the teamwork gives participants a greater sense of connection to their community.
It's surprising when you come together with a group of 300, 500 people and you're working together. It's just this feeling of teamwork in the end that, wow, we did this in 3 hours, we made this transformation, and I was a part of it. And that's a really awesome feeling, and you only can understand it if you get involved.
Even though this event only occurs once annually, Lorraine says there are ample opportunities to stay involved in your community throughout the whole year.
This is our one big annual cleanup for the year. We go citywide, but that doesn't mean we're not cleaning up throughout the year. If you call Looking Good Santa Barbara and want to have a cleanup in your neighborhood, we'll make sure you get the supplies and we'll help coordinate a cleanup in your neighborhood. If you're with a service group or a youth group and want to do the same, please give us a call. We also do a youth fundraising program, so for students that want to come out and earn some dollars towards their youth group, we also organize those cleanups throughout the year.
For more information on how you can participate in the citywide cleanup, visit santabarbaraca.gov and do a search for Looking Good. You may ask yourself what Santa Barbara has in common with the city more than 6,000 miles away. It turns out more than you'd expect. In our next story, we take a look at Kotor, our sister city in Montenegro, and some of the recent cultural exchanges between our two cities.
Located on the Adriatic coast in Montenegro lies a charming, ancient walled city, Kotor. With numerous year-round activities, festivals, and the possibility of seeing the ocean and mountains all in a 2-mile radius, it's no wonder Kotor became a sister city with Santa Barbara in 2009.
It's an amazing World Heritage Site, cobblestone streets, and the interior of the city are no cars. It's all a walkabout, and just beautiful, beautiful architecture, friendly people, amazing natural beauty. It sits on a fjord against these mountains, so literally you could swim and hike the mountains all in the same day.
Bridging cultures that are as different as they are distant is what President Eisenhower envisioned in 1956 when he began his People-to-People program to cultivate relationships between nations. Still a city in progress from its emergence out of communism, Kotor turned to Santa Barbara as a role model for artistic and civic engagements.
Several years ago, they broke up into Serbia, Montenegro, etc. At that point, they were all of a sudden non-communist, free enterprise country, a very beautiful country, but in need of a lot of help in making the transition from, one type of economy to another.
And not too long ago, 20 years ago, there was war in that area. And we traveled through the whole area and saw the devastation on some of the land and the buildings and properties around, not in Kotor, but around Serbia and Bosnia and so forth.
The sister city relationship came about when Kotor reached out to international consulting expert and Santa Barbara resident, Ichak Adiz.
And I think Ichak's primary concern is he did not want to see it change into a high-rise condominium community. He wanted it to grow like Santa Barbara and thought we could be a great asset to them to, how do you grow over these 30, 40 years? We took a contingent over and met with their mayor and their dignitaries and talked about the formalizing a sister city relationship and the things that we might do together.
It's pretty easy to get a sister city. I mean, it takes a while, but you need 25 committed citizens that meet regularly and are intent on making some connections within that other city.
One of the more significant interactions between the two cities has been the formation of the Goran Milik Culinary Academy in Kotor. The academy teaches its students, many of whom suffer from hearing and speech disabilities, the fundamental cooking skills needed to work in the restaurant business.
All these kids in this institution up until 18, are educated at the institute, but at 18 they go out into the world and there's not much in the way of work. One of our members, Gordon Millick, is a chef owner down in Los Angeles, at Davino's restaurant. He is from Montenegro, and we got together with him and we began a culinary school for the children at the institute. And all we were looking for is to take these young kids teach them the basics of entry-level work in a restaurant, and hope that we could get them some meaningful work once they get out of school.
Santa Barbara has benefited artistically from the partnership just as much as Couture. In July 2011, 13 teenagers from 4 Santa Barbara high schools were invited to perform at Couture's 19th annual Children's Theater Festival.
The students that we took over were from 4 different high schools here in Santa Barbara, and all super multi-talented singers, dancers, actors. We really got to pick the cream of the crop and create our very own musical theater troupe, right down to creating and writing all their own music and songs.
It all started, I mean, we were at Laura Ink's house, kind of spitballing ideas about what we'd like to do. And Clay, who's kind of our director, refined our ideas to become this magical talent circus, where we basically just talked about all our talents in one room, and then we said, okay, well, we can put that here, and we wanted to just make it something fun and easy to understand. So a circus is something universal. People can understand that anywhere.
A crowd of over 250 people, including the mayor of Couture, was on hand to witness the performance. It was the first time any American group performed at the festival.
And the whole time they sat perfectly in attendance. They were a wonderful audience. They'd laugh at all our jokes. They'd sit quietly, engaged at the edge of their seats when you needed to listen. So we tried not to bog the show down with too much language. So it was dance-driven, a lot of slapstick, which the children really responded to.
It was surprisingly good for a kids show because it was really just about having fun, and the kids really understood the comedic movement, which is primarily what the show was, which was a real selling point.
I was afraid that people would talk through our performance. The kids weren't mic'd, and I think that they were so unaccustomed to seeing young people with so much gusto and performance presence that you could have heard a pin drop in the theater. It was so amazing.
Similarities between the two cities extends beyond the artistic realm as well. A shared love of water polo has resulted in 3 noteworthy exchanges.
I went over with the idea of having these different committees, and one would be sports. And of course, I knew nothing about water polo when you get over there, and they know nothing but water polo. So our first opportunity was their national team came over here to train with the Southern California teams in preparation for the World Championships. And of course, because of the city-city relationship, they took 2 days and they came up here and played an exhibition match at UCSB. We filled the stadium.
Although the tiny city of Couture is still developing in many areas, it has a sister city to help it, a relationship that benefits both cities.
This collaboration allowed, I think, a lifetime of opportunities. I mean, things are still going on to this day between us and Couture that people might not hear as much about.
We have ties with the city government. Our mayors have met several times. They've toured one another's facilities. And it really is a helping hand because in many ways they're like a developing third world. They need schooled on how to, be green and keep their beautiful place beautiful. And, I think we can learn a lot from them too in, preserving heritage and world culture and the arts.
Stay tuned for future episodes as we explore more of Santa Barbara's sister cities. Well, that does it for this episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have questions or comments about the show, give us a call at 564-5311. You can also watch the show online at citytv18.com. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.